Welcome to Access Europe for November. It's bonfire night, and I promise you that there will be fireworks in one sense or another tonight. Today, I am very, very pleased to welcome Ynte Jan Kuindersma. I've probably mangled his surname. I apologise. He will correct me in a second, I'm sure. Ynte is from the Netherlands, and he's a regular speaker at Access DevCon, but may well be new to Access User Groups. He is an expert in many areas beyond just Access in terms of working with things together with Office apps. Power Automate is what we're going to concentrate on today. And Ynte, if you are ready, I'm going to stop sharing, let you introduce yourself properly, and welcome again.
So welcome. My name is Ynte Jan Kuindersma from the Netherlands, as Colin already said. And I want to introduce you to the beautiful world of Power Automate, which is one of the tools of which Microsoft is offering you under the umbrella of the Power Platform. Why do I use Power Automate? Well, I have also been working as a Power Platform consultant for companies in the Netherlands, and they use Power Automate a lot for all kinds of automation. And I think Access developers actually should know something about it for two reasons. First of all, it might be something you could use for your personal efficiency, so to speak. You could do a lot of manual work that you are doing now manually. You could automate it, because the principle would be, if you hate it, automate it, and then Power Automate might be your best friend in future. A second reason is that you can use those Power Automate flows from within Access, because a Power Automate flow can have a HTTP endpoint, which means you can call it from VBA. And of course, I will show you a lot about this kind of stuff. But first of all, I'd like to introduce myself a little bit more. I've been a database developer actually all my working life. I've done a lot of Access work, but in 2016, I moved into the world of Power BI and Power Platform. And that was actually what most of my working hours in a week go to. So I'm not working with Access that much. But of course, I still like the tool, and I think it's a beautiful tool for developing and prototyping, etc. So I haven't forgotten about it. But in real life, I don't get too much requests for Access stuff. So that's why I moved into this other stuff like Power Automate, Power Apps, and of course, Power BI. Well, what is it a solution for? Well, we all know about the new Outlook. And one of the things that the new Outlook is offering is the lack of support for Outlook objects. So you cannot program the Outlook objects from within it. And it might be a solution for this particular problem, because you can automate all the Microsoft Office stuff. Whether you're using the Graph API or you're just using Power Automate, you can automate a lot of Office apps by using Power Automate. So that's the main reason actually for introducing you to this world. So you could use this kind of trick to automate stuff from within Access. Right, and Maria is here as well. Last time I met Maria, she was struggling with authentication with the Graph API because of multi-factor authentication. I did not solve this yet. I will talk about authentication, of course, afterwards, but I did not get this authentication as such working yet, but I will show you some workarounds. So you may know the Power Platform as such: Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate. Those three together, they are the Power Platform, and a lot of other stuff as well. And at the bottom of all those apps is Dataverse. I will not use Dataverse as such, but the Power Platform itself is using Dataverse for a lot of administration stuff, for a lot of saving data, etc. So it's built on top of Dataverse, actually, whether you like it or not. But yeah, it's there. One of the questions you might have is, can I use this actually? Well, if you have an Office 365 license, and I think most of you have, then you will also have Power Automate, Power Apps, SharePoint, etc., etc. So it's already there. Even if you don't know it, it's already there. You are paying for it already. You just need to find out where it is and how to use it, of course. What I said is true for your normal license. If you're using specialized stuff like HTTP requests, like I will do today, or if you want to connect to SQL Server or other specialized tricks and actions in Power Automate, you will need an extra license, which is about $15 or 14 euros per month. But the way I will present it to you is that you might just need one license, I guess, because if you have an HTTP request starting your trigger, you can just share this HTTP request with your co-workers, and you would only need one license, I guess, to automate a lot of stuff that your colleagues might also use. So the cost is not a real big issue, I guess, but of course that's up to you to decide. Where do you find it, or how do you get it? Well, probably you know the address portal.office.com. That's the starting point of your online Microsoft 365 environment. So if you would go to this address, portal.office.com, you might even try it if you want at this moment. Then you will find a screen with a lot of interesting stuff on it. But at the left upper corner of this website, there will be a button saying apps. And if you click this apps, you will notice that all this software that I've been talking about will be there. I will show you, of course, afterwards. You could also go to Microsoft365.com, or you might also go to make.powerautomate.com, but they will be in the same environment. It's all connected to your Office 365 license and also to your Active Directory entry that you have connected to your login credentials. A few things before I'll actually demo. You need to know a few concepts. First of all, you have triggers. Triggers will be the things that start a flow. So every flow has one trigger. Then you can have a lot of actions following this trigger. So you might say, I want to send emails, I want to get meeting time slots in my agenda, I want to post something in a team channel or whatever. That would be called an action. And Power Automate is called a no-code, or well, at least a low-code development environment. So there will also be things like loops, like for each, or if then, or conditions, etc., etc. And you could call them controls. Yeah. So there's a lot of controls in Power Automate. You could even use variables and transformations like create JSON table, create CSV table, create HTML table. It's all already in there. But the main principle is you will need a trigger, and there will be a lot of actions to follow up. So what kind of triggers might there be that might be interesting to us all? There are scheduled triggers, which mean that they run on a certain schema. So you might say every morning at 9 o'clock. There are automatic triggers, which means that they react to events happening, like new emails coming in, or like new entries being entered in a SharePoint list, or new records being added to Dataverse, or new file uploaded into OneDrive. That would be a trigger that could start a Power Automate flow. And then, of course, there's the manual or instant flow, which means you are the one that could start this flow. And you might think, well, why do we need something like this? Well, there is actually also an app on your telephone for Power Automate. So you might do this. You might build an app with a manual start. And if you meet somebody on a fair or whatever, you could send this person an email right away by starting this app from Power Automate and then clicking a button in it. And this trigger will then automate whatever you want to send this person that you are meeting. So a manual trigger might also be handy. You are the one that starts the flow. Right, let's talk about controls a little bit more, and who could use variables within Power Automate, like string or number. Also arrays, so long lists of arrays. And those arrays are normally in the form of JSON. So JSON is a very important part of the Power Automate world. You can use JSON wherever you like, and you also have actions to read or to create JSON. Actually, an action or a trigger itself is also JSON. So I know people that are programmers and they are writing the JSON for Power Automate flow steps, whatever, because you can create them. Because if you know the schema, you can create them using C# or whatever. You will have loops like for each or do until. You might have conditions like if then or is equal to. And there's also the magic word of select, which means that you can pick certain columns from an array. So you might have an array with 10 columns and you're just interested in 2 columns. With select, you might just say, okay, give me 2 of those 10 columns. I will all demo this after this, but this is just a small introduction to the world that's coming to us. It will look like this. There's a trigger at the top of the screen. So in this case, it's a trigger called when a new email arrives. So this trigger just means I will watch your email box constantly. And whenever there's a new email coming in, then something will happen. And what will happen in this case? Well, that's what's at the bottom of the screen. In this case, there will be a variable field. I will connect GPT, because the AI world is completely integrated into Power Automate already. So you can send whatever you are entering in an email. You can send it to OpenAI or to ChatGPT, do some stuff with it and get the result back. And in this case, I'm posting this response from ChatGPT in a channel in a Teams environment. So this is just an impression of what a Power Automate flow looks like. It's a workflow, and it will run from top to bottom. That's the general principle. This green checkbox means this step was successfully finished. So there's also an option of debugging Power Automate, of course. You can test them, and then you get green boxes indicating that this particular step has been successfully finished. Another example of what this might look like, and I know Maria is there as well. Maria has sessions on Microsoft Graph, etc., etc. So I thought I also put in an example of how to connect to Microsoft Graph. So this would be the way a Power Automate flow might connect to the Microsoft Graph API. So instead of using VBA or whatever, you might just get a HTTP request. In this case, it's an HTTP request to get mails. So you get the top 999 emails ordered by receive date. So it's a get command. You're getting stuff, and you're not posting something in there, but you're just receiving stuff, and the results will be presented in the form of an application JSON file. You will wonder about logging in. Well, I logged into Power Automate, and this particular flow will, of course, then run under my context. So I do not need to log in again within this Power Automate flow. I'm just logging into this Power Automate environment. And so this action also is connecting to this Graph API with my credentials. So I don't have any hassle at all about making this authentication work, because I authenticated in this Microsoft UI already. Of course, later, if we are using HTTP requests, then there will be a different story, and I will come to this as well. But the way this works, well, this will work under my context, yeah, because I'm manually triggering this flow. I'm pushing a button myself, and then this step will run under my user context. Talking about authentication already a little bit more, if you're using this in a environment with teams or a bigger enterprise, then the best practice is normally that you are running Power Automate flows under the service principle, which means it's not a personal user account, but you have a special setup in your Active Directory. You are registering a application over there, and this user, this non-personal user, will then normally be the one that is triggering, or that is of those credentials are used for all the stuff that you're doing within your Office 365 environment. Right. Well, let me show you. That's the most important part, of course. So let's start here. I went to portal.office.com, which normally then brings me to this address. Microsoft recently changed this interface, but this is the address that you will be sent to if you are typing in portal.office.com. They changed it into Microsoft 365 CoPilot, but there it is, apps. And if I click apps, you will see that there's quite some apps over there. And if I click on all apps, you will see this, what you now see on my screen is all part of your Office 365. And then you also have Power Automate. So there's Power Automate there. You also have Power Apps. But today, of course, we are talking about Power Automate. So I might click Power Automate. And then I will change to another website address. And this is called make.powerautomate.com. So this is the starting page of Power Automate. I am in my default environment. If you don't know the Power Platform, you are able to build separate environments for separate clients or for separate whatever, separate teams or whatever. So you can separate a lot of stuff from each other. Yeah, so in this case, I'm working in my default environment, which is probably not best practice for an enterprise or whatever, but in my case, I'm a one-man band, so it's okay with me. So this is the starting screen of Power Automate. One of the things that Microsoft enters or offers is that you are using CoPilot to create a Power Automate flow. I mean, some people like it, some people don't like it, but you can actually describe what you want to do. So in this case, if I just click it, I clicked the first one, and then it will tell me, well, this Power Automate flow might look like this afterwards. I mean, I will not continue this way, but I just want to show you that this is already an option. So you can just type out whatever you'd like the flow to do. That's one option. A second option that you might have is that you go into templates. There are a lot of examples of Power Automate flows that might be interesting to us all. Be it as a personal user, be it as a freelancer or whatever, somebody who's looking for making its working life more efficient, or you might also use this to automate stuff from Access, because all those things, they have a trigger and they have actions, and you can use all this from within Access afterwards. So in this case, I just click around a bit. It's very interesting to have a look at, and a lot of stuff is being produced by the community. I think this is a really interesting part of this complete world. So this is not Microsoft that produced those things. So this is community stuff. So like this one, this is made by Microsoft. Yes, okay, it's true. But there are also other people making automate flows. And this one, for instance, request approval when a new file is added to SharePoint. This one has been used for 168,440 times already. So many people already use this particular flow. So you just need to click it. For instance, if I click this one, and then you will notice that this Power Automate flow will ask my credentials, of course. I mean, this flow needs to know how am I enabled to connect to all this stuff. Well, in my case, it's using my personal credentials. So it will be connected to SharePoint, it will be connected to the Office 365 users from Graph API, it will use approvals, it will use my Outlook, and it will use my Teams. So if I click it, just let's see what will happen. What's happening? Okay, of course, now I need to put in all kinds of stuff. I need to, of course, connect to the SharePoint site that I want to. I need to connect to the library that I want to connect to. I need to pick the folder within this library. So there's a lot of configuration in this case. So I won't finish this one for now, but it's just about the principle. You can either type something in, or you can just pick a template. And then this Power Automate flows will be produced for you. But of course, I also like to show you how you can make them yourself. And that's, I think, the most interesting part of today. So I went to my flows. So this is a long list of flows that I already have made before for all kinds of purposes. And I'd like to make a new one from scratch. So I click on New Flow at the top of the screen. And there are the questions already, as I said before. So you need to pick, how do you want to start? Do you want to start from a template, or do you want to start from a visual template? Or do you want to build your own blank flow? That's what I want. And then I have to pick, is this an automated flow? Is this an instant flow that runs directly if I click a button? Is it a scheduled flow or whatever? Well, in this case, I'd like to make it an instant flow, which means that I need to start it myself. So an instant flow. This instant flow will need to have a name, of course. So it will be the Access User Group Europe. And now I have to pick the trigger. Of course, I already said instant flow. So I just meant this one, actually, the first option in the list, manually trigger a flow. There's also another option that you might have a Power App, and you might have a button in a Power App. And if you click this Power App button, you might want to call a flow. That would be the second button. But look at this, you also have a lot of other steps already, because you also have buttons in Power BI, and if you click it, then something might happen. So it may sound very easy, instant flow, but you still have to pick something. So in this case, I'm picking manually trigger a flow, and I'm creating this. So a new flow has been created. There's one trigger, manually trigger a flow. I click it, and at the left of the screen, I'm able to enter all kinds of properties. So as I said before, any step in a Power Automate flow is JSON. So look at this. This is the JSON schema for this particular trigger. If you don't want to see it, well, just don't look at it. You don't need it as such. So normally it's enough to stay at the first screen. You have the option of putting thumbs in there. So if you want to start this flow, but you might want to say, oh, I want to send an email, for instance. You might want to know an email address to send this email to. You might want to know a subject about what this email is going to have as a subject. You might want to enter the body, and you might want to add a whatever. So I'm showing you how this works. Let's click on Add an Input. I have 6 different types of input. I will start with text. So I will say, okay, who is this email being sent to? So I will call this to. I will add another text, and I will say, okay, I need a subject for an email. Right, there it is. I've been playing around with this with Colin a bit, and I was asking him for money. So I will do the same again. Somebody shared his email address with us before, so I'm now going to ask this person for money. So I'm entering a number because I want to ask for an amount of money to be sent. And I also will enter a date file because, of course, there's a due date. So what I'm doing at this moment, I'm saying I'm configuring some parameters. So when I start this trigger, Power Automate will ask me for those 4 entries. Even if I use my Power Automate app on my telephone, those 4 things will be asked. So I have to enter them on my screen, on my telephone, and then this Power Automate flow will pick this up and do something nice with it. Let's also send an email, or let's send a file. So there's this option of having an attachment, and there will be an interface for entering this afterwards. I will show you. So I have those 5 parameters to start with. I want to save this flow, and it will now tell me it's not able to save this flow because any flow at least needs 1 action. So a trigger is not enough. You will at least need 1 action. So in this case, I'm going to click on plus. And now there's this long list of actions. I mean, there are hundreds of connectors. And I learned before from Colin that next time somebody will show you how to send SMS or text messages through Twilio. So let me just type Twilio here. And I will show you that Twilio is also over here. So within Power Automate, you can just send text messages using Twilio. If you would want to do this, you of course need an account with Twilio. You will normally get an API key from them or whatever. And within this step, you will need to enter this information. Yeah. So I will not continue this, but the principle is there are hundreds of connectors, the Microsoft Office suite, but a lot of other stuff as well, like Adobe or SQL Server is there. There's Dataverse, there's Oracle, there's MySQL, there's whatever you like. And in my case, I'd like to send an email. So I just type send email. And of course, there are a lot of providers enabling me to send emails. So in this case, I have to pick again. Do I want to send it with Office 365, or do I want to send it with Gmail, or do I want to send it whatever? Outlook.com. So there's a lot of actions possible using emails. But in my case, I want to stay with Office 365 Outlook. I click See More now, because then I get a list of all the possible actions that Outlook has to offer me. So I mean mail or calendar, yeah, and contacts. So I can send or get emails. I can send, create or get contacts, or I can create or I can get events from my agenda. Yeah, it's all there. In my case, I'm going to send an email using, where is it? Send an email version v2. So I clicked this action. And look at this. This action is following my trigger. There's this one line between them. And if I trigger it, the email will be sent. So at the left of the screen, I have to configure this action. So in this case, of course, I need a to address. I could hard code it now. But you saw me enter some input data before. I mean, I have a field over here that's called to. So if I click on send an email, I will just go to this to field. I could use a name. I could type a name now, but I could also click this one over here. I could say use dynamic content. And you have to understand all the actions, they are run after each other. And every action can get data from previous steps. So all the actions have some output at the end. There's something coming out of it. And in the next step, you can refer to this. You can get this step from there. So in my send an email option, I can refer to the to property that I defined as a parameter at the beginning. So in this case, I'm clicking on get, sorry, no, over here. Yeah, there it is. You see this blue icon popping up. At the top, you have this arrow. If I click it, it will show me all the steps, for all the outputs from previous steps that are available to me at this moment. So in this case, there's a city, there's a state. I mean, I didn't put this in there as an input, but because this flow is running under my context, the Graph API is delivering my city, my state, my street, my postal code to this Power Automate flow. So I could use them if I wanted to. But in my case, I'm clicking on See More. And you will see that a lot of other stuff is there as well, but you see also my own input parameters over here. So I'd like to use 2 over here. I'd like to use the subject that I entered at the top as well. I'd like to have a body in there, of course. You owe me money. I mean, I can type something. And then, of course, after that, I could then enter this amount as a parameter. I could say, okay, get me the amount over here. So I want the amount over there. Please pay for, and I'm entering the due date as well. And here we go. So in this case, I have a trigger and I have an action. And I'm using input stuff from the first trigger in my email action. So I'm now able to save my flow because I have a trigger and at least one action. I'm saving it. The flow is ready to go. I can now test it. At the right upper corner of my screen, I can test it. I could say, okay, I want to manually test this one. Test. It again wants to know if it's okay to use my personal Office 365 account. I say, of course. And now there is this screen. And this enables me to enter the data that I need for my email action. So I might want to send it to Colin, of course, and the subject is money, please. Yeah. The amount is, well, Colin, prices go up over here. It's 7 cents now. I want it next week, the 12th, and I also want to send him some kind of file. So there's also this interface. I'm just sending some kind of file. Some kind of file. Contoso coffee original return policy. Perfect. I'm sending it now. And you will see on my screen the flow will be executed right away. And you will see green. Not right. It needs to be string. Okay. Didn't I make it a string? Sorry. I know. I just put in Colin's name. I didn't put in his email address. Right. I thought my system would already know that Colin has this particular email. So I'm going to send I'm going to pick the email address from Colin. I'm going to put it in there. Blah, blah, blah. 0.7 cents. Next week. Some kind of file should be included over there. Right. Run the flow. Done. 2 checkboxes. This means this email has been sent. Colin will receive an email now, without an attachment because I didn't enter the attachment data, but he has got an email at this moment. So I have 2 checkboxes over here, which means the actions have been successfully run. If I click them, I can get more information about those particular steps. You see, I get inputs and I get outputs. So I can click it. I could click it and I could just watch what the outcome of this particular flow might be. So in this case, I have this particular outcome. The variables have been filled this way. So this is one way of debugging. You might click on this one and you might also find out what happened in this step. And you get a lot of technical information, that's true, but it's also normally it's a bit more readable than this. So this is, well, it's called low code, but if you look at this, you probably understand that you need some kind of programmer's mind a bit to survive in this world, because it may be no code or low code, but this of course does not mean it's no brain over there. So you really need some, well, intelligence to survive this world. Let me show you how to send this attachment as well, because I had forgotten about this in the first step. So I just used 2 subjects and the money, but I didn't put in the attachment. So I will go to the advanced parameters over here and I will click show all. And then there is this option of attachments. So I can send attachments and it needs a name. So I just pick one of my, and look at this. it will offer me this. It will offer me the attachment name, and it will offer me the attachment content bytes. So I will use the name for the name of the attachment, and I will use the content bytes for the content of the attachment. I will save it. I will not test it again, but I wanted to finish this flow so it's now properly working, I hope. So this is the general principle of a Power Automate flow as such. You need a trigger, and you need one or more actions. Well, the interesting question, of course, for all of us is how do you start something like this from within Access? Well, if you want to use this in Access, if you want to start it from Access, the trigger should be different. The trigger should be instant, but of course not manually. So the alternative would then be HTTP requests. And I will show you. I have a lot of demos prepared already. So let's first of all have a look at a flow that will send an email without an attachment. I click on Edit, and I will show you how this Power Automate flow looks like. So it looks a bit like the one before, but the difference is at the top, it's not manual clicking something. It's called manual, yes, it's true, but it's not meant manual like clicking it. It's a HTTP request. So if you look at this icon over here, it's HTTP request. So this HTTP request has a web address over here, and this web address enables me to call this Power Automate flow from within Access VBA. So this web address needs to be included in Access afterwards. I will show you. And of course, I can also put things in here. I also need to input the email address, the subject of the mail, or the body of the mail. So in this case, you can enter this in the request body schema. Yeah, I will show you how to create this yourself. So you have a HTTP endpoint. You can put in data in there. And that's why I'm using the post method. I don't know if you know your way around HTTP requests, like you have get and post and patch or whatever. So getting stuff just means you use get, but in this case, we want to put something in there because we want this Power Automate flow to do something with data we enter it. So we need the post method. Talking about authentication, in this case, I said, who can trigger this flow? Who can trigger this flow? Well, anybody, which means it's a public endpoint. And of course, that's not the most secure of all options you have. But as I said before, I didn't get this authentication with Graph API or with Power Automate with this two-factor authentication to work. So that's still something that should be worked on. A plan B might be that you are entering some secret code or some password or some kind of text in your JSON while calling the Power Automate flow. And then you could do some if-then stuff in the Power Automate flow. So if your code is not okay, then the Power Automate flow would not run, etc., etc. That would be options. In the previous version of Power Automate flow, you also had the option of filtering on IP numbers. I didn't find it back now as I started looking at these actions again. So somehow they removed this option of filtering on IP numbers. But let me first of all show you this one. So this is a public endpoint. It's this address, and this is the input this particular Power Automate flow expects from me. Well, how do you call this from Access? Well, let me move to Access. And I have this Power Automate, or I have this procedure over here called push mail without attachment. So I entered this endpoint over here. I mean, that's the endpoint. I just copied it. I just copied it from this Power Automate flow. Yeah. As soon as you save a Power Automate flow, this Power Automate flow will get an address that looks like this. So this will be the endpoint. I then use Tim Hall's trick with a dictionary to create JSON. I mean, not everybody knows this, but Tim Hall has built this beautiful tool. And if you are creating a dictionary in there, in the end, this will produce a JSON array. So it's very practical. I don't have to write this JSON myself at all. I just have to say I have a dictionary, and one of the parameters is the email address, one of the parameters is the subject, and one of them is the body. So I have 3 entries. So this is a body object of type dictionary. I am then creating a web client and a web response object using Tim Hall's tools. And then I'm just posting this body into this endpoint. So you don't need anything but this to make it all work. So if I just press F5 now, I would just see this run. and it already ran, I guess. Yes, I expected it to show something at the end, but let's have a look at Power Automate. I'm going to this Power Automate flow. I'm going back because what I want to show you now is this. If you go to a flow like this one, the HTTP mail without attachment. Look at this. At the bottom of the screen, you will have a 28-day history run. So at the top of this list, you see the run of 738, which is the one that I called from AccessUserGroups. So this proves that my Power Automate flow did run and the status is succeeded. So if I click it, I will then also be able to find out whether it was a success, yes or no. So in this case, it says everything was a success. I will click on it. I could say, show me the raw inputs, and I could see the raw inputs. I could also see the raw outputs, and I hopefully find out that the things that I posted into this Power Automate flow have already been accepted by my Power Automate flow. I mean, this is the proof that my access code has triggered this particular flow and has posted this information into this flow. So if I go to send an email and I would look at raw outputs, I will just see, no, it will not be there. It will be there over there. Yeah, there it is. This is the proof that my message has been sent to Colin and to T. Jacobi. So they can hopefully confirm.
We both got it. Yeah, we both got it.
Yeah, it works. So it works with any email address that is around in the world, no problem at all. And I automated this from within Access. So a next question you might have, of course, is it also possible to put in a attachment to send a file or multiple files with this? Well, I have an example of this as well. So this is generally the same setup. I have added this part. I have an email file. I want to send a particular file in this case. I want to send the file graph.xlms, and I am converting this file into a string of bytes. That's the way I could make it work. So I am taking those bytes of this file and I'm creating a string of bytes from this. So, and this string will then be posted into this Power Automate flow using one extra parameter called attach files bytes. Talking about authentication, I also added this as a plan B. I know if you don't get this multi-factor authentication working, then you need something else in place. So I thought this might be an option. You might, of course, consider using some kind of password yourself and inserting it into the Power Automate flow. You might also use environment variables from your laptop. So if within a company you have your username in your environment or your OneDrive directory you can read this from VBA, you all know probably. But if you post it to the Power Automate flow, in the Power Automate flow, you might then test it. So is this a user within my particular tenant? Like, is there my company name within the OneDrive or in the username of the user? I mean, I know it's plan B, but still it worked. But the interesting part is, of course, this one, making bytes of a file. This one will take, of course, I will just debug it part by part. This will, of course, take a little bit longer because in my case, it will need to make bytes of this particular file. Yeah, so, well, I just press F5 now. So this will take some time because it needs to process this file, make an array make a string of text of it, and then insert this into the Power Automate flow. So let's have a second of waiting. In the meanwhile, I can go to Power Automate flow because this flow has already been started, I guess. Well, not yet, but still I can go here. I can go to my flows and I could find out whether this one is already starting. So that would be this one, mail with attachments. And if I look at my screen, it is not running yet. Look at this. The last run has been 2 days ago. So my Access VBA is still running and doing stuff, but in a few seconds, it will hopefully start this flow. And while it is running, you could even go into this flow and have a look at the proceeding of this particular execution. This is still processing this file. It's not a big file, but still it takes some time. And I will show you a more efficient way of doing this. And the more efficient way of doing this is using your OneDrive. I mean, we all have Office 365. So you also have OneDrive. And Power Automate is very efficient in working with OneDrive. So I could do it like this, like I'm doing now. And that would be the way a Power or a Microsoft Access programmer would do it, probably, as I also was. But you can also say, if I just have a name and I know where this file is saved on my OneDrive, in the Power Automate flow, I can also get the file content from my OneDrive file. And then it will not need this conversion of bytes, etc., etc. So this is still on its way. I'm wondering why it takes so long. Otherwise, I will have to stop it. Let's give it one more chance. No, it's not. So it's still running. Let me just. I hopefully can stop this one because I actually wanted to show you the other one. Let's wait a minute. I will show you the other one. I will show you the OneDrive version of this particular file. Look at this with attachment version. So I'm using this one, HTTP mail with attachment from OneDrive. And let me show you how this works. I have a manual trigger, at least while I have a HTTP trigger, and I am inputting an email address. I'm inputting a subject, a mail body, an attachment file, and I'm attaching the bytes of the file, and I'm using username and a secret password, as I shown you before. And I'm adding a condition. So in this case, I said, only execute the rest of the actions if the OneDrive variable that has been posted into this Power Automate flow is containing the word bird automation. That's my company name. And it's a plan B kind of check whether this is a legal user, yes or no. So, but if this condition is met, then it will say, okay, I'm going to send something back to the calling flow. I am entering a little delay of 10 seconds in this case. This is because of OneDrive. The syncing between my laptop and the flow, the power of the SharePoint or the OneDrive is taking some time. So I entered a little delay of 10 seconds. So because if I create a new file and I want to send it right away, it will take some 10 seconds before this file is already online. But if it's online, I can use this action, get file content. I can just say, take a particular folder in your OneDrive. I mean, I connected this one to OneDrive. Look at the icon over there. It says OneDrive. So this is OneDrive for Business. And you have this option of getting file content. So I just said, this folder gets the file from there. So I entered the name of the file that I want to send with this flow as a name, as a text. And it will get the file content of this particular file from my OneDrive file. And then if I enter to send an email, I can see, okay, I have the email address there, I have the subject over there, I also have the body over there. And if I look at the attachments, look at this. I mean, this looks a bit technical, isn't it? But it's still created in a very friendly way. Let me show you. I want to show you, show all. I want to show you how this was entered over there. I said the name is equal to the attach file, and the content is equal to, and look at this, I can get the file content from the OneDrive action before this. So I can just click it. So this is the way I am entering this. But as soon as I save it, it will turn, or sometimes it will change this into a JSON file. But this particular setup means I only have to enter a name into the Power Automate flow, and it will get this particular file from a particular folder in my OneDrive. Well, let's have a look if my VBA is ready. My VBA has finished, and I even got some feedback back. So you can start a flow, you can have a lot of actions, and at the end you can give something back. So in this case, I said, please give me back my content. And in this case, I returned status is okay, and it gave me back the OneDrive file. I can give back anything I like. This might be a nice setup. So if you call a flow, you might want to wait for it to have finished, and then you want something back from there. For instance, if you want to get free slots in your agenda or whatever, or if you want to have particular information from your contacts. So if you want to look up a person by email address in your Outlook contacts list, you might say, I input an email address, but I want the address back from there. So that might be the way to do it. With response content, you might just read the content from this file. So let me show you how this flow ran. I'm going back to the flow that I just started as a demo. So the one without OneDrive. I'll go to my flows. mail with attachment. It will show me it ran 4 minutes ago. It lasted 1 second. I click on it and I will have green checkboxes all over the place, indicating that everything went okay. So there it is. It has been sending an email to Colin again. And the array is there with the bytes as well. So this email has been delivered to Colin, I hope. And at the end, you see this one, respond to a Power App. So I said at the end of this Power Automate flow, if everything is went okay, I want to return something to the calling code. So if I look at this one, I'm going to edit mode. So if I go to edit mode, I could enter this option of respond to a Power App or flow. And look at this, I just said, okay, I want this to be returned. I want the status to be okay. And I want to give a variable, in this case, OneDrive back. I could have given anything else back that I wanted, but that's the way you could use this flow to put something in, let some actions be delivered, and then at the end give something back. So this is an example of so 2 examples of calling Power Automate flows from within Access. Talking about applications of this, I mean, this is just sending emails, yeah, but I have some more nice applications that I might show you. So for instance, I just recently made a Power Automate flow that gets me free slots from my agenda for the coming 7 days. So you might say, okay, I need an overview of my agenda for the coming week. I need to plan an appointment with somebody and say, I think it would last 45 minutes. Of course, I could look into my agenda myself and find out when this is possible, but I could also run this particular flow. Let's run it first of all. I'm going to run it. I said, I want slots of 45 minutes. So free slots in my personal agenda. I'm running it. I'm testing it. It is running at the moment, but I will also show you what this Power Automate flow did. It will send me an email. So in this case, it's a Power Automate flow that has been triggered manually with an input of a number of minutes. There's this option of finding meeting times. So I can say, I want to look in my agenda. I want to find out the meeting duration. I can want to set a starting time and an end time. So the starting time in this case is UTC now. So this current time +1 because of the UTC to Central European time conversion. So I just said, give me upcoming events, upcoming free slots in my agenda from now until in 7 days. And the minimum duration should be the number of minutes that I have put into my input parameter. This particular find meeting times step returns JSON. So in this case, I said, okay, I want to parse this JSON. I want to read it. So you need to input over here the schema that the Power Automate is getting from the Outlook agenda. And of course, you may wonder, how do I get this particular schema? Well, I can tell you one thing. You can run a flow, even with the first 2 steps. You can just create this flow with 2 steps. You can run it. And you can then look at the raw output of that particular find meetings time. Then you will have the JSON in your hand. And then you enter a parse JSON action and you say, hey, this is the schema that you need to read. And parse JSON just means I am able to read this JSON schema, and I can get out all the particular parts from this particular JSON schema, and using select, I can then get particular things. So in this case, I only wanted the beginning time and the end time. I could have gotten all the other stuff as well. Let me show you. If I some extra, I just want to show you what this action gives you back. Look at this. This is what is returned from getting your agenda. All those actions are there. So you could all read them from there. And if you want to, you could return them to Access or whatever. So this is an example of something that might be very handy for you. Just ask for a long list of free slots in your agenda for the coming 7 days. One last thing, a special request from Colin, getting data. He said, I'm spending a lot of time getting FTP or getting data from particular sources and then entering them somewhere else. That would be a perfect use case for Power Automate as well. Because get data means you want to connect to SQL Server, to MySQL, to Oracle, to Dataverse, to Power BI or whatever. You can connect to all those sources, get data from there. You might convert them into a CSV file, or you might convert them into an HTML table and then save them on OneDrive. So that's the last thing that I want to show you. That's to get data from Power BI or get data from Dataverse. So in this case, I have a flow, and this flow is manually triggered, but I could also have scheduled it every morning at 9 o'clock. As the first thing I said, I want to read stuff from Dataverse. So in this case, I connected to my Dataverse and I wanted the country name and the customer name from a Dataverse table called DEFCON customers. And this particular action will just get all those records from this Dataverse environment. I'm then entering them into an array because there's the option of creating variables of type array. So I have put them in an array in this case. So I'm getting the content from Dataverse and I'm making an array from it, from the value from this particular action. It's called Dataverse array. Using select, I can just get whatever I like from this array. So in this case, I just want to have the city, the customer name, and the country, because the customer name I got for free. It's always delivered. Even if I didn't specify the column, the customer name is delivered because it's a special field in Dataverse. It's the key column, namely. So the key column is there as well. So that's an example of getting data from Dataverse. I also have an example of getting data from a Power BI file. You can use a DAX query to get data from Power BI if you want to. This is all possible. And the interesting stuff might be then this. There's this option of creating a CSV file. So you don't need to specify how a CSV file looks like. You can have just this action. You can say, I want to put an array in there, and I want a CSV file to get out of there. So this one step just says, okay, I will convert your input into a CSV file. And then using create file, I can just save this particular file on my OneDrive. So instead of taking CSV file or downloading stuff yourself, you might just have a scheduled Power Automate flow, getting data from whatever source you like, creating a CSV file table from it, or entering it into a SharePoint list, because at the end, I also have an example of how to enter it into a SharePoint list. It's no problem at all. You can take data from A and insert them in system B. It's all there. It's all in Power BI or in Power Automate. Well, having said this, I then like to conclude my session in the sense that I'm ready with my topic. I could have gone on for hours, but I understood there's a lot of questions. I see 7, 8 things in the chat. I didn't follow the chat, but Colin, is there something that you want to put on the table as a first question?
There are so many questions that I'd been noting them down and I actually couldn't keep up with them either. So there's a lot of them.
Okay.
So if I scroll back to it, first of all, can I just say that is a real masterclass from an expert in the use of Power Automate. And I'm going to do one question out of order, which was, for somebody starting with this, is the learning curve steep? Because there's so many options and it's not getting overwhelmed with it. How easy is it to get into at a basic level?
I would say it's not very difficult. We are all programmers, aren't we? So we know about loops and coding, etc., etc. So I would say the most easy way would be, perhaps you may think I'm using the wrong word, but I would say CoPilot. And I mean it like this. I would say just try and let yourself be surprised by what you are getting offered. That's one option. So just type what you want. A second one would be just watching all those templates. Just watch what's already there. They are all completely finished and ready to use. So whatever you like, just learn from there. Having said this, of course, there's Microsoft Learn on Power Automate, and there's tons of MVPs on Power Automate on YouTube, etc., etc. So I don't think we should be afraid of Power Automate at all. Sometimes you may be angry at it because it does not always work the way you would expect it to be, and sometimes there are little quirks in it. And of course, it's a cloud tool, so Microsoft is already also constantly updating or changing stuff to the worse or to the better, whatever. It's all happening. It belongs to this world of cloud, of course. That things are being improved by Microsoft without you even wanting to know about it or even getting to know about it. But yeah, I don't think it will be very difficult for most of us.
Thank you. Andrew, you asked early on a question about authentication. Do you feel that that was answered later, or would you like to ask it now? If you would, turn your microphone on.
Thank you. Yeah, you can hear me now? I take it. There's a couple of points. The first one is, if you are creating this routine, whatever the word you use is, within Power Automate with this flow, then so you create this as a dev to send an email, let's say, and then Fred, your client, executes this. Who is the email from?
By default, it's the email from the person that is starting the flow.
So it would come from the end user who is executing this within their Access database. Is that right?
Yeah, look at this. At the right of the screen, I'm the owner in this case. I'm the primary owner, but I can share it. So I might introduce this particular flow to all my colleagues, and they will then also have this flow. And if they start it, the flow will be in their context.
And does that then raise the issue again that they would need to authenticate themselves to Microsoft 365 before they can instantiate this flow?
That's true. It's always always need to authenticate. Yeah.
Okay. Worth mentioning, perhaps. Sorry, and then I do need to run. So but thank you. Really interesting presentation. Peter, who I think has also had to run. Peter and I have now resolved the authentication. So we have a DLL we've built, which lets you use 2FA authentication with Microsoft 365. So you can authenticate through that, and then talk to Graph or talk to anything else. And that's something that we're probably going to launch that in terms of making it available early next year.
Right. Okay, just to show you one more thing then, because I just showed you how to start a thing for everybody, but you see the options are this. You have those three options. So you might say any user in my tenant, or anyone, or specific users in my tenant. So that's the authentication, that's the possibilities you have here. So you can also limit who is able to start this HTTP request. So this is an HTTP request I'm showing you now. So from Access VBA, you could then also say, okay, if the authentication works afterwards, you could also then on top of that, add one filter over here.
So in fact, the DLL we've created, we originally did in order to allow you to use Graph API, but it would also work to allow you to connect to a Power Automate flow.
Yeah, it will be. It's the same Azure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same stuff. Cool. Yeah. So you just need to add some extra information into the Power Automate calling the Power in the VBA calling the Power Automate flow. I guess something with the bearer, etc. You know all about it, I guess.
Thank you.
So I did it anonymously or public, so to speak, but it's very nice if you do it like this. Yeah.
There are so many questions. Yeah. I think that it would be a very popular decision if we invite you back again in 2026. And maybe people who would like Ynte to come back could actually email me and suggest some of the things that they would like him to cover, because he's only covered a small selection of what he could have discussed. He knows far more than this, and I asked him to limit it, but it's just a vast area.
I didn't succeed.
Well, you did, but there was one question from Tom, from our several questions. One, he said, if you are copying data from one database to another, can you define data conversions as well? Or would you do the staging table bit where you copy it into a temporary table and then modify the data?
Well, you have a lot of intelligence. I mean, I didn't touch the functions at all, for instance, but you also have functions like left, right, whatever you like, or date conversion or time conversion. It's all possible over here. But of course, it's not a tool that's optimally designed for this particular part, of course. So it would be normally for just shuffling it from A to B, I guess. But yeah, there are options like functions like left or right or whatever. I mean, there's complete PowerFX language available in here. So you might do a lot of stuff. Just to give you one example, my agenda, for instance, just to show you one thing. I got the date and the time, etc., back, but I just wanted the time from there. Just an example of what you can do. In this select statements, I did not take the original file, but I said do some substring. So look at this code over here. I can just do a lot of stuff over here, like substringing and taking the left 4 and the mid 5 or whatever. You can add weeks and subtract weeks if you want to. You can conversions from value to text and from text to data, etc. So it's all in PowerFX. And this editor looks like this. This is the editor you have to work in. And look at all the functions: concat, substring, index of, trimming, formatting numbers, if-thenning equaling greater than JSON values, or anything you like. Conversion function it's called. You see, there is this a long list of conversion functions. So yeah, it might be that you succeed in Power Automate, but else otherwise you would just move it as text from A to B and then do some SQL stuff, whatever, at the other end to make it the proper data format. Yeah.
Ynte, thank you ever so much. I'm going to interrupt and say, I'm going to go on talk about next month and the month after and so on. If you could go skim through the chat and respond to whatever you get time to. Some of the things have already been answered since, and I apologise if I've missed out the most crucial question from somebody, but there really were so many. I actually just couldn't keep up with them. So I'm going to stop you sharing for now. May come back to you in a second here. There have been 2 live conferences recently, the German AEK conference that is organised by Carl Donnerbauer and the UK Org conference in London that was organised by Pete Bryant and Andrew Richards, both of whom have been here. They will know that there have been changes to the roadmap. They delayed one of the items that was due out in September to December. They left the other one as October, but that's already out of date. They've now put all of their, well, the 3 of their developers, together to work on a combination of form and report Zoom and large monitor support. Some of that will come before the end of this year. I can't tell you how much and I can't tell you when, but there is an awful lot going on, but it is proving to be a bigger task than they initially expected, which is one of the reasons why there has been a few overruns. It hasn't been forgotten, it will happen, and it will happen in the very near future. There is an article at the Access Forever blog site from Carl Donnerbauer where he goes into more detail about that. I would recommend that you read that. And the next thing to tell you, this was new to us, and that is the Trident engine, which powers the Internet Explorer or legacy browser control, is going to be phased out by June 2026, which was much sooner than people were expecting. There is going to be an Access Forever article about that in the next week. But we know there are issues with the Edge browser, and we need to pass back as much information as possible to Microsoft about things that need to be done before they phase out the legacy browser control. But that at the moment is due to be phased out by the end of the first half of next year, which is not long at all. So beware of that. Right at the bottom there, there's no official announcement from Microsoft yet, but they seem to be having further rethinks about new Outlook. And they have the program manager has been replaced, has gone on sabbatical officially. The new one has doing a new emphasis, which is mainly AI based, which we may or may not be happy about. But there are going to be significant changes that will be, I think, announced officially in the near future. I can't tell you more about that, but there are articles that you might be able to find online, which I'm not going to give you the links to today. So there is a lot happening, some good, some worrying, and some that may or may not be good regarding new Outlook. Next month, in a cunning link here, we have Adolph Dupré, who gave a presentation a couple of years ago, and he is going to be talking about texting from Access. Now, you could do that using Power Automate. He's going to be discussing how to use Twilio, a provider, to do text messages. I did it years ago with my school's apps for for texting parents and also for receiving text from parents, and it's a very powerful tool. Adults not here, but that is something I think a lot of you will find useful as well. Although there are some costs involved, they're not hugely expensive. In January, I think, Neil, we probably haven't got time to discuss it now, but in January, Neil is going to be talking about the new style message boxes that have started rolling out for built-in messages, but he has spent a long time replicating that with the messages that you do in code. And you can see there just one example of that. It is effectively identical to what Microsoft has done. Not only is it interesting to look at, more interesting than the old message boxes, but the process that Neil went through to actually achieve that is interesting in itself. So that will be January, and that will be another interesting conversation there. Coming back to Ynte, can I ask Ynte, what are you going to be sharing for our viewers after this meeting? Obviously, the video will go on YouTube next week. What will you be sharing? PowerPoint?
I will share the PowerPoint and my Access database. Of course, I will remove some particular codes from there, but the general setup I will share with everybody. I'm happy to share it with everybody.
Okay, thank you. Please raise your hands if you want to ask Ynte a question. Tom?
Yeah, Ynte, you had a slide fairly early on with vertical 5 boxes showing a flow. And I noticed that box number 4 had both an error and a green check mark.
I will have a look at it. And I could also share my screen again, I guess. This
yes.
Is it.
Yes. So I see the red text invalid.
Where did you see the error?
I see the red text in box 4, invalid connection.
No, I now understand what you mean. It says the connection is not valid, it said, but still yeah, I don't know why it proceeded then, because it normally, if it doesn't have a connection, it should not proceed. So you're right there. It said it is okay, but the connection was not valid. So I cannot explain to you how this happens. I can show you though what this means about connections. So because there was a question about authentication and in which context is a certain flow running, I will show where this kind of an I can show you over here. You see, this is send an email, and there is this option over here. And look at this. This is the connection that's being used on this particular flow. Mm-hmm. So apparently, in this demo thing, somebody has, I mean, I took it from the internet, this one. Somebody has downloaded a flow probably and not entered its own credentials. But I wonder why this flow did run. I didn't understand. But every step has credentials. Well, at least if you're using Office 365 or Teams or whatever. So it's this connection. And if you look at this, there will be those settings. And you can also find those connections somewhere. So if there's an error, so in this case, this is the setting. Normally, if you have one moment, yeah, there it is at the bottom. You see, there's its connection. So I can change the connection over here. I could say I could use other credentials. So normally, as I said before, in a company you would use the service principal, a non-personal user, and then you could create the flow under your own credentials, test it, etc., etc. And if it's ripe for production, you might want to change particular authentication or particular connections to this particular service principal. Like, for instance, if you're using a shared email box, for instance, of a department, for instance, yeah. You would not use the credential of one of those colleagues. You could say, okay, there's yet another person enabled to send on behalf of, etc., etc. Then that would be the best practice. Yeah. So this error you saw is about this connection not being okay. And I don't understand why the flow did run.
Okay, Neil.
Yeah. We saw you using Access, writing code that we're all familiar with to actually talk to and create a flow.
Yeah.
Are there any built-in tools to the Office apps like Outlook, for example, where there's literally a button that you can choose from the standard menus, which you can use to trigger a flow? Or do you have to write some sort of macro behind?
Yeah. You have to create a VBA code like I've shown you. And then you will probably know how to put this on a command bar.
So there's nothing built into the standard toolbars?
Not in Word or Excel or whatever. I don't know if you guys or girls are working with Power BI, but in Power BI, they did offer this option. Yeah, so it might be that they are also offering this in future in other tools. But if I just start Power BI, just to show you, if I start Power BI,
so it doesn't offer an alternative path to writing an add-in. You've got to write an add-in to actually trigger the flow and send it the data that it needs.
Yeah. No, not that I know of. Not that I know of. No.
Yeah, you know, along those lines too, it would be really great to be able to process the result, have access, be able to get the results like the Power Apps can. And
yeah, but I've shown you that, or I will show you again. This way, look at this. This is feedback from my flow. Right. Great. So I will show you again how I did this. So in this particular automate flow, at the end, I said response, send response back. No problem at all. We'll have to go to this particular flow, and I will show you how it worked. So this is the flow which sends an email with attachment, I guess. Let's have a look. Yeah, this is the one with an attachment. So this is the email with an attachment. That's this one.
I think, Ynte Jan, you're misinterpreting what I... It didn't say the right word. I don't mean like the final result. Did it happen or not? Did the whole flow happen? I mean, what can the flow get? The data that the flow can get.
I am answering your question. I've just shown you, so to speak, an example. But look at this. At the end, I have entered this one. Respond to Power Automate. I could export anything you like. So getting my agenda, for instance, will give me an array of free slots in my agenda. I could pass this array back to Access VBA. No problem.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, this is also dynamic content. Look at this. I can just say, I gave something back. So I just sent some JSON back, for instance. So which JSON would you want to have? So look at this. I'm just saying, okay, this is everything I can get from whatever I want to. So, I mean, I don't have my agenda in here, but I could have done this in my agenda flow, and I could give this agenda back. No problem.
Okay, so we'll have a follow-up meeting next year. As I said, ideas of things that people would like Ynte to cover, and give him time enough if he, on an unlikely event he doesn't already know, to find out. But yeah. I suspect he already knows.
With Colin, I was also talking about things you could do with Power Automate, and I suggested that we could also look into AI then. Calling AI from within Power Automate, sending texts over there, waiting for the prompt result to return back, or whatever you like.
Any other questions?
Are there any usage charges, or is all the usage and the number of flows that you run included in your subscription?
Yeah, there is a max. I don't know them by heart. So, of course, in the free license, so to speak, the Office 365, you have a certain amount of max what you can use per month. And another limit I once saw is that the number of actions within one flow is also limited to say a few thousand. So this may seem odd to you, but I once made a flow that was iterating over a database and creating records one by one, field by field. And so then we had thousands of actions, and then all of a sudden it said, oh, sorry, the maximum of numbers of actions in the Power Automate flow was, well, I don't recall anymore, but say it was 8,000. So within one flow, you have, say, maximum of 8,000 actions. But on the other hand, you have the concept of mother and child flows. So you could set separate flows for separate tasks and call them from the mother flow, so to speak. So that's also already over here.
There's also some limits, like kind of more within an action. Like I have some Power Automates that run Excel scripts.
Yeah.
And, the purpose of the Excel script is to, kind of act like VBA, but update rows and fields in Excel. And one call will only it has a limit to how much it can do. So what I found was I had to create a loop and call that script for like 5 rows at a time. So it was a workaround to Power Automate's limit.
Yeah, that would be one of them. All kinds of other connections also have limits, like for instance, Power or SharePoint or the SharePoint list. If you get items from SharePoint list, it will normally default to a max of 5,000 in one go. So then you also need to iterate. So this is not the extremely powerful Fabric competitor or whatever. I mean, it's still, of course, a tool with some limitations. Sometimes you have to deal with it, and there's a lot of information on the internet about how to deal with that. I mean, the community is enormous, also about Power Automate. So if you would put this kind of question, how to overcome this 5,000 item list in SharePoint, you will find all kinds of sites with people working with solutions for this particular thing. But normally you have a loop. Yeah, you do a for each loop, or a 1 to 100 loop or whatever, and then you iterate over things in bunches of pages of 5 or 10 or 20 or 40.
Tim, if you want to do the last question, please do.
Yeah, please. A question from a colleague of mine who does a lot of our licensing look-like stuff. He says Power Automate is built-in connector, example SQL Server, or from any other different sources. Apparently SQL Server is premium, so he was wondering about licensing due to premium connectors.
Yeah, I will show you. Say, okay, SQL, I want something with SQL Server. Look at this, then you will see this diamond. You have 9 actions regarding the SQL Server, but there's a diamond, and the diamond means you need the premium license, which means this is this €14, $15 a month stuff for the person that's calling the flow.
Okay, that was the money you were talking about, that extra cost you were talking about early on.
Yeah. So everything with a diamond means, okay, a license. So the HTTP request also a license. But this does not mean that all the users need it. I mean, then you have to find out who is using this trigger. So if you have a job to do every day, say getting data from A to B once a day, you need one license for the person or for the service principal that is executing this flow once a day, for instance. So you don't need it for all the users. It's just for this one person running this flow.
Right, I'm going to stop, I'm afraid, here. Ynte, we will ask you to come back again and we'll plan carefully what the majority of people would like you to focus on. There is far too much. You could be back every month for a year, and I don't think you'd cover everything you know about it. So thank you ever so much. There was so much there.
It was my pleasure.
And you had a very good audience. We had 30 people at one stage, and much appreciation from the audience. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you, Ynte, for giving up your time, for truly inspirational knowledge sharing. I'm just amazed at how much you know about this. And we will see you all next month, I hope, for Adolph, and see Ynte again in the not too distant future as well, I hope.
Looking forward to it.
Cheers. Thank you, everybody. See you soon. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.